There, Doctor, there you go. Dr. Hari Kumar, good evening. Okay. So are we ready, everyone?
Yes.
We now have 124 persons in the chat. Shall we start?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we're ready. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to greet everybody a good evening. Well, in the Philippines, where I'm from, it's a good evening, but I know in some places it's morning time, so good morning. We welcome all of you to our webinar on tsunami preparedness. And to welcome us and give us an overview of what we have in store for the evening, please welcome Ms. Veronica Sodillo, who will become President and CEO of Geohazards International, who will be coming in via video.
Welcome, everyone. I'm delighted to open today's webinar on tsunami preparedness initiatives, a three-country sharing of experiences and lessons. We are holding this webinar in recognition of the World Tsunami Awareness Day on November 5th. My name is Veronica Cedillos, and I have the honor to serve as President and CEO of Geohazards International. I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit more about our organization and to give you a little bit of context as to why we are holding this webinar today. Geohazards International, GHI. We are a global nonprofit founded over 30 years ago with headquarters in California. Our mission emphasizes saving lives. And by emphasizing saving lives, that means that our work is in some of the most at-risk places in the world. We work by empowering at-risk communities. This means that we emphasize equipping and empowering local leaders, local professionals with skills and knowledge so they can build resilience in their own communities ahead of disasters and climate impacts. So we don't typically work post-disaster. We take a proactive approach by identifying high-risk places in the world where we know there is a high potential for a large loss of life when a future disaster strikes. We have worked in many places around the world and currently have people and staff in Haiti, the Dominican Republic. In Asia, we have people in India, Nepal, and Bhutan. And just last year, we initiated a program in the Philippines. The World Tsunami Awareness Day. November 5th was designated as this day back in 2015 by the UN Assembly. And this year is particularly important as in December of 2024 will mark 20 years since the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. And this event was incredibly devastating and a huge wake-up call in terms of the importance of tsunami readiness and awareness, not just in one country, but across nations. This tsunami event killed around 230,000 people, many of those unnecessarily, because people were unaware of the signs of a tsunami and were not aware that they must evacuate with these signs. This event affected people in 14 countries, so it was a very widespread event. And we've made a lot of progress as a global community since then, but there's still a lot to do. And one of the important things is that this huge event happened almost 20 years ago. This means that new generation, our youth and our future generations didn't necessarily experience this. So it is very important that we make sure to pass on these incredibly important lessons. And that's why I think this year's theme, 2024, with its focus on youth and future generations, is particularly important. Today, you will hear about experiences in tsunami risk reduction from three countries, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and the Philippines. Our panel of reactors also include perspectives from the Philippines, in addition to Puerto Rico and India. You'll be hearing from people with experience and expertise in tsunamis, geology, engineering, ecology, disaster management, and community development. Our speakers will be sharing their experience in putting science to action and working closely with communities on the ground. You'll hear about ways that we are equipping and empowering local leaders and youth to encourage tsunami readiness in their own communities, including using nature-based solutions. So I want to give a very special recognition and a message of gratitude to all of our speakers, panelists, and to our moderator for joining us and sharing their knowledge with us today. And I also want to give a big thank you to our Philippine team, led by Rachel Morala, for organizing this webinar. Thank you so much. So today's webinar is all about sharing best practices, lessons learned, effective strategies, but also about discussing challenges, gaps, opportunities, and it's stressing the importance of collaboration. But if you take anything away from today's webinar, I want to leave you with one message. And that is that disasters are not inevitable and that there's a lot that we can do. And everyone listening today, whether you are a seasoned professional or are a young student, each and every one of us plays an important role in making our countries and our world safer. And this is increasingly important that we all do our part. I think in order to make meaningful progress in taking on the challenges of climate change and the risks that it is exacerbating, like tsunamis, we will need strong collective action. So I hope that all of you will take away not only knowledge from today's webinar, but also ideas for putting this knowledge to action. With that, I'd like to thank our corporate partners shown here for all their support over the years. They make webinars like today possible. So thank you so much. And I invite all of you to stay connected to us. You can find more information about us on our website listed here. You can also sign up for our newsletter using the QR code shown here. We provide updates there as well as on our social media. Thank you again for attending today's webinar. I wish you a very fruitful discussion and session. Thank you so much.
You're muted, Rich.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Thank you very much again. Again, I want to thank Miss Veronica Cedillo from GHI International for that very warm welcome. So right now, we are at around 165% participants to this webinar. So as we go through the presentations of our panel of reactors, we'd like to encourage our audience to please take note of any clarification and questions you'd like to ask them, and you can actually post it on our Zoom chat, and we will find a way to collate and ask them at the appropriate time. We are quite excited to begin. We do have 320 pre-registered participants right now. Since our time is quite short, we don't have the leeway to wait for everyone. So, for our first presentation, it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for today, Dr. Mary Antoinette Beroya Eitner. She is an engineering geologist with long experience in geohazard assessment, particularly earthquakes, landslides, and flooding, as well as in climate change issues and nature-based solutions. She is a project manager at Geohazards International, managing projects in the Philippines, India, Bhutan, and Haiti. Dr. Tonet is currently based in Germany. Everybody, please welcome Dr. Beroya Eitner for her keynote presentation on tsunami risk reduction through nature-based solutions, global trends, and innovations. Dr. Net, please.
Yeah, thank you, Rach. Are you seeing my slides in slide mode?
Yes,
Okay,
very
thank you
good.
very much. Okay, so again, thank you very much, Rach, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us in this webinar despite the unfriendly schedule. Okay, so as Rach mentioned, I will be presenting on tsunami risk reduction through nature-based solutions. I only have 15 minutes, so I will just dive right in. Since this webinar is all about tsunami, let me first define this term just to make sure that we are on the same page. So tsunami, as you know, is a Japanese term that has been universally adopted to describe big sea waves caused by a large and sudden displacement of the ocean. And this displacement is usually caused by an earthquake in the seafloor. So 80%, about 80% of all tsunamis are generated, in fact, by earthquake. But they can also be caused by landslide, volcanic activity, and in some rare cases, space objects like asteroids and comets hitting our ocean. Now, here is a schematic diagram just to show to you how a tsunami is usually generated. So here you have the trigger as earthquake, displacing a large volume of water and pushing it up, which then sets off an oscillation at very great speed and creating this very long wave. Now, these waves, when they start to enter the shallow waters, they tend to lose their speed because of friction. But since the waves behind them are still traveling at great speed, in a way, this wave bunch up or pile up along the coast, creating the high wall of waves that we are usually seeing as tsunami. Now, let me just try to show you how it is in an actual tsunami. So this is a short footage that was taken during the Great East Japan earthquake tsunami that happened in 2011 that was generated by an earthquake of magnitude 9.1. Okay, let me skip that part. Okay, so let me post that part there. So what you are seeing in this last part is a 5.8 meter seawall, so about two-story building that was overcome by a tsunami wave that reached 12-meter high, so double the height. And in the end, this seawall in fact even became a liability because it served as a trap, preventing the water from going back to the sea. Okay. Um, okay. Um, Moving forward, let us define another term. So, what are nature-based solutions? Now, the World Bank Group defined this term, nature-based solutions, as actions to protect, sustainably manage, or restore natural ecosystems to effectively and adaptively address societal challenges, which, for the purpose of our discussion today, means the tsunami risk. And so therefore, given that definition, nature-based solutions to tsunami risk refer to protecting, conserving, and or restoring natural coastal barriers that dissipate the energy of tsunami. So what are some examples of those natural coastal barriers? So first, we have the coral reefs, particularly that part here in the buffer zone, which in planar view looks like this. So you see you have grooves here and grooves, and they are composed of grooves and spars. And there are two ways by which this could dissipate the energy of tsunami. So first, the water that comes out of this group counter the flow of incoming wave, but also through friction as water passes the coral's rock surface. And then you have mangroves, which through their dense network of roots, trunks, and foliage, reduce wave height, velocity, and force. And then finally, you have sand dunes, which in a way is our last line of natural coastal defense, since they are already in the landward side. But just to make a note here, since sand dunes are made up of loose sand particles, they are usually destroyed also during tsunami, particularly during bigger ones. But the point that I want to make here is that at that point of initial contact, these sand dunes already considerably reduce the energy of the tsunami. Now, let's focus on mangroves since among the natural coastal barriers, these are the most established ones. So what are mangroves? They are assemblage of plants that grow along shores like this one, rivers and estuaries in the tropics and subtropics. So you don't see them everywhere. They are limited to these latitudes. And as of 2020, we only have like 0.1% of the Earth's land surface. But despite of this very small land area, this ecosystem is indeed a very productive one. So here are a list of all the additional services that they offer in additional to disaster risk reduction. So for example, carbon sequestration and storage, thereby directly mitigating climate change, nursery ground for marine species, habitat for wildlife, and therefore addressing our biodiversity loss problem, pollution control, erosion control, source of food and income for our communities. And so with all this, mangrove as a disaster risk reduction measure is indeed a win-win solution, meaning there's no way we could lose with mangroves. However, these mangroves are under serious threat. As you can see here, where these are the percentages of gains and losses in mangrove extent from 1996 to 2016, where you can see that it's really mainly a loss everywhere in almost all regions. And here are the major culprits where you can see that the conversion of mangroves into aquacultural farms is the main driver for mangrove loss. Now, within the framework of DRR, what is the implication of this mangrove loss? Should we be worried? And the answer to that question depends on whether coastal forests could actually really mitigate tsunami. So note that I am shifting from mangrove to coastal forest here to include those trees that are technically not mangrove, like nipa and coconut trees, because they are also helping in coastal defense. Just that as compared to mangroves, their contribution is kind of less. So going back to the question, can coastal forests actually mitigate tsunami? Let us see what experiments are showing. So here you can see the simulated wave passing through the mangroves, and you can see that the waves are dampened, and then when it goes out, it's already still. So one more, big waves, dampened wave, and then as they go out, it becomes still. How about field observations? What are field observations showing? So you can see the big waves from the open sea again being dampened as they cross the mangrove forest in here. But then you can say, well, that's just an experiment. And also the ones there in the field observation, they are not really from tsunami, right? So they look more like big waves from a really bad storm. So then we look into the actual experience during tsunami. As for example, here during the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami in Sri Lanka, where you can see that the outer lines of trees actually mostly absorb the impact of tsunami. So that's why they got destroyed, while the ones there in the inner lines remain standing and undamaged. Now here, these are satellite images before and after tsunami in the 2006 West Java tsunami in Indonesia, where you can see that the areas before with no vegetation has complete damage, complete destruction, wiped out, while here in areas with vegetation, some houses remain. And now we look at here. This is an article that was published in Science, which for those who among you who are into research would know that it's a very highly prestigious and high-ranking journal. And what you are seeing here are, so these circles are, the circles are communities. Areas in red are those that experience complete damage. Hatch areas in red are those where partial damage have been observed, and then the green ones are obviously the mangroves. And essentially what this is saying is that in those areas without mangrove, so for example, here in the river mouth and areas here in front of the mangrove, there were total destruction, while as compared to those areas behind this thick mangrove where there no destruction was observed. And then here in these areas where there are mangroves but not as thick as this one, you can see partial damages. And these are just few examples. There are in fact a lot of example on the dampening effect of coastal forest. But it's not only about the dampening effect. They also play a critical role in holding and trapping big objects and debris, as in the case of this during the 2018 Sulawesi tsunami, where you can see that a ship and this debris have been trapped by the coconut trees here. And this is a simplified illustration of how, well, comparing the tsunami impact in areas with and without coastal vegetation. So before tsunami, after tsunami in areas with coastal vegetation, Boink here, and then in areas with vegetation, you can see that the ship was trapped by these trees, and but also that the water level is um, lower. Okay, but how about, do we have figures here? How much reduction are we talking about? How much protection value are we talking about? So I tried to compile this data, and as it turns out, it's not exhaustive. It's just for example. But as it turns out, this protective value depends on forest parameters, different forest parameters like width, density, tree diameter, species, and layout. So just for an example, a modeling study shows that a 200-meter wide coastal forest could lead to a reduction of force by 80% and flow velocity by 70%. In actual observation, for example, in West Java tsunami, a 40-meter wide forest leads to a reduction of a 6 to 7-meter waves to 1.6 meter. I won't go to the detail of this table anymore. You can take a screenshot if you want. But the point that I am making here is that if the protected value of coastal forest depend on this parameter, it means that we could optimize this protection value by adjusting these parameters. And so, to the question, can coastal forests mitigate tsunami? It's a resounding yes, by acting as barriers that absorb impact forces, retard the flow, reduce run-up distances, and decrease height. And it is for this reason that those countries that have experienced really bad things about tsunami, like Indonesia and Sri Lanka, they embark on massive reforestation program immediately after tsunami. Effectiveness depends on forest structure. The implication is that protection value can be optimized through application of scientific know-how, proper planning and management, which is what we are doing in the Philippines, as Dr. Kujamat will later present. But there is a big caveat here. Effectiveness also depends on tsunami magnitude and characteristics, meaning that coastal forests may be ineffective during extreme cases, as what happened here during Super Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines, where the storm surge wave reached 7.4-meter high. Okay, this is not tsunami, but you see the connection, right? So meaning that's why there is a need for supplementary preparedness measure like early warning systems, tsunami evacuation drill, which is what we are doing in Haiti and the Philippines, as will be presented later by our presenters. Just a very quick comparison of green and gray infrastructures. Green are the natural coastal barriers, while gray are your usual engineering structure. So in terms of cost, green low, gray high cost, including capital cost, annual operation and maintenance. Flexibility, green is flexible, forest structure can be adjusted, uh, and like we discussed earlier, while gray is inflexible due to their large size and finite life. In terms of protective value, it's dynamic in green. They increase with time as the forests, for instance, become dense and trees become larger. While for gray infrastructure, they are static and finite, and they stay as in their original design. But I think the most important here is that green infrastructure provide wide array of other benefits, which definitely gray infrastructure won't be able to do. But it's not as if a gray infrastructure don't have any advantages. So first, standards and regulations for their design and construction are well established. They have clear asset life, depreciation, and return on investments, which makes planning easier. Okay, so what are the main takeaways from this presentation? Coastal forests are our first line of defense against tsunami and other coastal hazards, but needless to say, only if they are there. You cut them, you lose that protection value. You let them stay, they grew. This protection value grow in time. It's a win-win solution, as we said. Scientific and integrated planning and management are key to optimizing protective value. They may be overcome under extreme cases, thus the need for supplementary preparedness measures. And properly combined with gray infrastructure, they constitute a robust defense against coastal hazards. So this diagram here, I just want to show that through optimizing their layout and the type of species, we could tap all these effects. With that, I end my presentation. And yeah, thank you very much for listening. Rach, you are muted.
Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting. Thank you, Dr. Beroya Eitner, for such an enlightening presentation and an eye opener when it comes to the very essential role played by nature based solution in building tsunami resilience, particularly for vulnerable communities. So now that we've heard our keynote presentation, we want to see how different countries are actually undertaking tsunami preparedness and the various strategies they are employing in order to do so. From the Dominican Republic, please welcome Ms. Delca Espinal, a structural engineer specializing in seismic vulnerability assessment. Prior to joining Geohazards International, she was executive director of the Dominican Foundation for Risk Management. She also served as a structural engineer for the Dominican Republic National Housing Institute for 10 years and on several projects for the private sector. For today, Ms. Delca Espinal will share on tsunami disaster experience and the need for tsunami preparedness in the Dominican Republic. Miss Delca?
Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes, very well, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you everyone for being here. And I'm trying to make a quick presentation, only in 10 or 15 minutes, and I can be quick, but you can talk or you can ask me another time if you have the chance to see our contacts. I will be brief. Well, this is the context. The Dominican Republic, this is the location map. We share the island with Haiti. We share the Hispaniola Island. We are between the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. In those Americas, we belong to Latin America and the Caribbean region. And I will be talking in three parts. The part one related tsunami hazard in the Dominican Republic, also the experience that we have and the needs that we have in tsunami preparedness. Okay. We don't have a lot of data related to tsunamis in the Hispaniola Island. The source comes from different data, and we have the experience of 10 that were relevant, or we have data in the reports that we have from from the 1751 to 2010. They say that we have the largest tsunamis in the Dominican Republic are around 6, and in the Caribbean, 10, in the Caribbean and in the part of the Hispaniola Island. The most significant are in the 1946, that was in the coastal area in the northeastern part of Dominican Republic, in the part of Samana Bay. And also we have another significant in the 1751 that was in Asua de Compostela in the south part of the country. This is the chart about these tsunamis. Well, I will be talking here about two for the time. The now 1946 Matancita earthquake and tsunami. This was in August 4 in 1946 and was magnitude about 8. Other people say that maybe was 7.9 or less. But in the other reports say that 8 was the magnitude of this earthquake. This earthquake was in this area, Bahía Escocesa, or if we say it in English, a Scottish Bridge, Scottish Bay, and was normally have 61 aftershocks, was really at 1 p.m. and local time. And the earthquakes don't have significant damages, but the tsunami was around 1,080 or 1,790 deaths. They don't have agree with the geologists and people about the number of deaths, but normally they believe that less than 2,000. They said in the reports that maybe the wave have a height between 2.5 or 5 meters, and 1 kilometer was inland, and destroyed the Matanzas or Matancitas community in this area. You can see here some photographs for this area. These, we can see here in this photo, in a palm tree, a sign that remember the 1946 earthquake and tsunami is still there, and we can see in this area of Matancita. We can see in the other photographs some survivors from the tsunami in 1946. People that have a lot of stories related to that, how the tsunami destroyed the area. Another significant earthquake in the tsunami, earthquake and tsunami was in Asua de Compostela in 1751. It was on October 18 and was near 3 a.m. local time, and have several floods in the area of Asua, that is that area of the Dominican Republic. You can see here in the photographs also the church was destroyed, and we have a significant ruins of this area in the area called Pueblo Viejo, or Old City Town in Asua. The old city was destroyed and they have to rebuild in other area. Also, I have some significant hazard in Santo Domingo. You see that we are bordered by the Atlantic Sea and the Caribbean Sea. And we have made some studies related to the tsunami hazard in Santo Domingo. It's the only area that have scenarios, predictions, or based on studies related to tsunami in the Dominican Republic. Here you can see some velocity of the waves and some runoff of these areas and the time of arrival of the waves in this area. Because this area is the Osama River and also have a significant branch to the Caribbean Sea and can be affected by the predictions that they say that can be a tsunami hazard prone area. we can talk brief about the tsunami experience. We start to make some advance trying to make Puerto Plata, that is in the north part of the country, like make tsunami ready city. But these efforts will fall down because the political will in that issue only made some kind of workshops with the community to make some advance in that area. But it's only the only thing that we do, that we put some signs in Puerto Plata, but some governors say that can be terrible for the tourism, and they have decided to quit that signs in this area, something that was really, really terrible. But in this workshop, they make some preparation with the civil defense and Red Cross people, and also all the people involved in the response agencies, police, firefighters. This was one of the most relevant workshops related to tsunami in the Dominican Republic. Other efforts made by the National Institute of Meteorology in Zomed, that previously was called ONAMED, the National Meteorology Agency. Now it is an institute. They fusion some institutions in my country. They have some early warning system that support the tsunami efforts in the area. They are really improving because in the time they don't have any technical materials, and now they are trying to do something more. ONAMED produced some flyers and brochure for the community. You can see here some rules for security in case of tsunami. This was developed to the tourism area by Manzanillo and also Puerto Plata, that are touristic places, and also Punta Cana. Also, the Emergency Operations Center have a procedure and have plans related to the tsunami operation and standard. Is a collaboration between several institutions in the country, and they try to organize and do something relevant. Now they receive some funds from the national government to start to make improvement in the procedures, and also try to make some workshops in the community and some projects related to make some coastal areas more safe in case of tsunami, and put signs, and because at this moment they have the political will at this moment. Other initiative that we have is in Las Terrenas. Las Terrenas is a part near to Samaná that was destroyed in the 1946 earthquake and tsunami, and they make some awareness talks about the importance of preparation to a tsunami. Was more in the part of the hotels and restaurants in that touristic area, and they developed a standard emergency plan. Also, the UNDP made some efforts in Bajos de Jaina, that is a community prone to tsunamis near to Santo Domingo, and they make a project related to actions that save lives, and involve a lot of institutions, and also make some initial draft to make scenarios in that part of the country. We need a lot of tsunami preparedness, because normally the people in Dominican Republic is more concentrated or more prepared to tropical cyclones. At this moment, we have a disturbance. We have a lot of floods. These communities floods at this morning when I am. And we start with Geohazards International, some projects related to seismic risk in 4 communities in Santiago de los Caballeros, in Capation, Port-au-Paix, and Ancebo in Haiti. But we at this moment also, we are working in this area, Monte Cristi, that have the Manzanillo Bay, And we, in the future, we start in the next year some plans related to tsunami efforts. Now, at this moment, we are working in communities and schools related to seismic risk, but also we make a tsunami component trying to inform the communities and schools related to the tsunami hazard. Also, the tourist sector is trying to make efforts to try to develop information brochures related to tsunami, because if you see in this communication, the tourists that visited Punta Cana and other touristic places, they ask in the web and also in the radar about what is the seismic and tsunami hazard in some areas that they are trying to visit. And for that reason, the tourist sector is the institution that is trying to make more efforts to make tsunami efforts in the Dominican Republic. Also, in the communities that I visited, the people is really interested in tsunami preparedness. Although students sometimes when we make some kind of workshop, they ask about the tsunami. And for that reason, Geohazards International is trying to make a tsunami preparedness program in Dominican Republic. And that involves the kind of efforts that we made at this moment. For example, we made door-to-door outreach in some communities. Also, we are trying to develop a program in the Manzanillo Bay Area community door-to-door outreach. Also, we have to discuss schools for more outreach activities, not only in the seismic risk. Also, we try to involve tsunami preparedness and also made some kind of activities. For example, we making parts or maybe make some activities in the Tsunami Awareness Day in the next year. And that year we made some events related to International Disaster Day in Montecristi, and we take the point of tsunami. And also we are trying to make some outreach in some churches and public markets and community centers in the Dominican Republic, because we have more than 28 workshops in the schools related to seismic and tsunami risk, and we are trying to reach another communities mainly related to the septentrional fault. Thank you. If you have information, the presentation was brief. You have these channels to communicate, and I will be glad to attend your questions.
Thank you very much for that, Miss Espinal. It's inspiring to see how community engagement, working hand in hand with government, is key to the efforts of Dominican Republic for tsunami preparedness. Before we proceed, I just received a reminder from our GHI Tech team. You may post your clarifications and questions in the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screens. This way, we're able to manage questions and clarifications more effectively. Now, let's move on to Haiti and to learn from their very unique experience. And for today, it's quite a privilege to have Miss Carmalia Mentor William, having experienced firsthand the chaotic healthcare demands after Haiti's 2010 earthquake. Our second country speaker has devoted her considerable skills to improve Haiti's disaster resilience in all levels of society. Her experience combines around 19 years in public health and disaster risk reduction efforts in multiple contexts and countries. Right now, she serves as GHI coordinator for Haiti, which addresses issues significant to earthquake, tsunami hazard, flooding, hurricane, storm surge, and sea level rise. For her sharing for today, we'll focus on tsunami preparedness in Haiti, the sharing of lessons in the past, and community involvement. Ma'am, Miss Garmalia. Ma'am, we cannot hear your audio. You're still muted.
Good morning, good evening, everyone. Can you hear
There
me
you
now?
go. Thank you. Yes, we hear you quite well.
Yeah. Would you please share the presentation? Would you please share the presentation?
Yes, ma'am, we'll do that. There you are. There you go.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the president of GHI, to Turnet and team for organizing this great event. Special thank you to colleagues and national experts in Haiti that contribute to this work and are attending now. I'm honored to share my experience with you all today. How many of you have visited this wonderful country before, which is located in red in the world map that I'm sharing in the next slide? Next slide, please. As you can see, in red, Haiti, Haiti is located. How many of you know how small we are with 27,750 square meters? And how vulnerable we are, reaching almost 12 million inhabitants. Being among one of the vulnerable individuals, let me start by telling you my story. Born and raised in Haiti, I have experienced, I have not been told how vulnerable we are and how close I was living to two major faults. I've never been told that 9 out of 10 departments of my country were at risk of tsunami until I experienced my first earthquake in Cuba during my medical studies. Please. I have not also been told that there, there are major faults, four major faults, submarines and active faults, and multiple hazards such as hurricanes, flood, landslide in my home country. More than 350 schools are based in tsunami inundation in the northern area. I finally experienced my first quake in Haiti in 2010, which made a major turn in my life, in my career, switching from medical practice to disaster management. Next slide, please. And also, there have been many major events, such as a tsunami that destroyed half of the population of the northern area in 1842, and other recent tsunami and earthquake that have hit my country. I will be talking mostly about our approach to work with the community, the gaps, the progress, the challenges, the best practices that we have been implementing, and the lesson learned. Let's talk first about the approach. We first try to understand the risk and human factors. How can you teach someone about a disaster without knowing his fears, his perception, and his belief and its tradition? So we first do social studies to better understand human factors and know how to help a community change their behavior. We also strengthen local capacities. We elevate national and local experts. We don't do any work without consulting the national expert. We increase institutional capacity for disaster response, knowing that they will be the one intervening during any major disasters. We train builders on disaster resilient construction, and we cultivate local leaders and champions to continue their work while our project are no longer running. We work closely with trusted sources and channel of communication, trying different channel of communication, doing segmentation to reach different level of the population. We usually are inclusive engage people with physical and sensory disabilities, as most of the time people and the government tend to ignore them. We work with all religion denomination, with universities, and with fishermen in area that are prone to tsunami. We include women and other of that are often overlooked. We empower children and youth to be agent of change through art and culture. Here in this picture, you can see the schools where we went to do training during school sessions. Next slide, please. Here you can see the gaps. We have lack of funding from the national budget for preparedness and mitigation activities. There is a decrease of leadership and governance, lack of multi-hazard early warning system, scarcity of research and surveillance equipment, and most of the time lack of maintenance of the equipment. Lack of permanent surveillance, as most of the operations and emergency operation center do not work 24 hours. We have also absence of tsunami contingency plan and evacuation signage in coastal cities. Some have been placed in some major cities, but small cities are still ignored. Deficiency of reliable communication system and involvement of the media. Lack of public outreach and science communication at public and private institutions. Insufficiency of cross-sector and regional collaboration, and also absence of sound public policy and scenario developments. These are among the gaps that we can mention for now. Next slide, please. In terms of progress, a lot have been made since the 2010 earthquake. There has been creation of decentralized emergency operation center and civil protection committees around the country, creation of National Tsunami Warning Center, Kodomar, and the Hydromet unit. There has been involvement of other sectors in seismic and tsunami surveillance, as there is a network of seismometer placed around the country. One city has been declared tsunami ready by UNESCO, and there have been outreach programs at vulnerable schools, churches, marginalized groups, and people with disabilities. Public market have been reached, public transportation, and mass gathering, as you can see in this picture. We have also leading the development of a new youth network of influencers. They actually have created their own organization, inspiring by our works to continue what we have been doing. We put kids together to discuss and analyze risk. And we have also conducted jointly with the government uh, 4 community scale evacuation drills to build capacity of first responders, and we have placed school evacuation plan. We have worked with elected official to make sure that they have ownership and of what we're doing, in a point that they are now seeking themselves for fundings to replace tsunami signage that have been taken. Next slide, please. In terms of challenges, there have been a lot of challenges, but we always do our best to work around them. There is lack of equipment, lack of study on tsunami generation, tsunami propagation, tsunami inundation, along with the statistical and geophysical properties of tsunami recurrence and the application to tsunami forecast and warning. There is political instability issues, security, have impeded oceanographic studies and disaster risk reduction activities. Actually, the oceanographic board is placed right on the sea but cannot conduct any kind of study due to maritime insecurity. Local media mostly tend to distort information instead of educating people. There is lack of energy and reliable communication companies, which impede quick broadcasting of information. There is also brain drain of technical personnel due to civil unrest that have been migrating to other countries. There is more focus on intervention than prevention, and school interruption due to civil unrest has impeded the continuity of activities at schools. There is lack of multi-hazard approach because, as you know, we are located in the Caribbean basin. So we are in the trajectory of hurricane. So every year we are vulnerable to hurricane. So it's very important to teach the population about both earthquake risk and hydromet risk. Also, COVID-19 and other public health emergency have been among many challenges. Next slide, please. These are photos of drills, of community skill drills that we have conducted, evacuating among around 4,000 school children, working with around 250 first responders for them to be able to coordinate their effort when they are all together on the field during any major disaster. Next slide, please. Those are best practices to maximize. As usually, we tend to pinpoint challenges, we tend to pinpoint gaps, but we usually do not focus on best practices that we can capitalize on. We have worked on inclusion. We have been making translation of sign language in all our public events to ensure that everyone is included and everyone is informed. We have built capacity of first responders and coordination through the city scale drills. And we put together national police, firefighters, and all private brigades to be trained ahead of time. We create schools and church emergency committees to respond to disasters right after we left. We do holistic training of the trainers for school inspectors, church representative, including psychological first aid, and climate change. We have involved psychologists, pedagogists, social scientists to inform the development of age-appropriate educational material. And we have conducted many SLAM contexts, painting contexts between schools to foster research and learning among school children. Next slide, please. Finally, we get the lesson learned. We have learned through the years that sensitization and co-development of solution with elected officials and policymakers foster ownership of our activities. We do visual disclosing of information on street, which fosters straightforward science and low-cost communication through murals painted by school children. We have involved local communities to lessen the barriers and foster behavior change in the long term. We keep track of trainees through a WhatsApp network, which allow us to remotely teach them and continually motivate them. We involve the diaspora, the civil society, the private sector to bolster ownership and continuity of our work. And we realize that the population is usually more receptive and engaged through cultural activities. So at the same time, we foster our culture through theater forum, local languages, slogan, proverbs, just to them to feel comfortable. We use social networks to quickly disclose video clips and messages as most Haitian has smartphones that are usually charged, even though there is lack of power. So this is the best way to share information, even though there is lack of power. We launch disaster activities after major events. So in this moment, people are more receptive. And after each quake, people tend to be scared and be more receptive to the messages. And we involve kids, youngsters from a young age to ensure transfer of knowledge to future generation, as 50% of our population is under 20 years old. Next slide, please. Through this picture, you can see cultural activities and artwork with the kids. They paint the risk, they paint the safety messages. As you know, they are kids. We need to find learning techniques, age appropriate learning techniques for them to not be traumatized. And at the same time, they learn about public speaking, about an art, and we enhance our culture. We realize that the population learn more when the culture is involved. Finally, I can say that we have not been going to places and tell people what to do. We get them involved. We know the social barriers and we overcome them. And even when we have to disclose information, we make sure that even though it's the same country, that the message is tailored for this specific community. Even though we don't find a specific person to transfer the message, we don't take from other communities to do that, as we have different accents. So all of this can distort a message. So we take all of these details into account because details matter in disaster management. Thank you so much for your attention and open to question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mentor William. Thank you for sharing how Haiti is endeavoring enhanced tsunami preparedness, and we are very much inspired by your efforts to making sure that Haiti builds back better, utilizing innovative approaches and involving sectors and the youth. For now, we want to introduce our final country speaker, Dr. Mau Podyamat from the Philippines. Dr. Mao is an assistant professor of ecology in the Environmental Biology Division of the Institute of Biological Sciences of the University of the Philippines. He also serves as field officer and consulting marine ecologist of Geohazards International for Philippine project. He has 16 years of uh, experience in field instruction, research, and extension. For today, Dr. Mao shares with us a presentation on focusing on nature-based solutions and how to strengthen tsunami resilience. Dr. Mao?
Ayun. Thank you, Miss Rach. Let me share my screen. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see it, sir. Slideshow,
Is
please.
it in full screen mode already?
Not yet. There you go.
Okay, thank you, Miss Rach. So a pleasant evening and morning to each and every one of you. I am Mao. You can it's an honor and privilege to present to you the program in the Philippines titled Tsunami Preparedness with Nature-Based Solutions, Sharing of Community-Based Experiences and Lessons in the Philippines. So the main focus of the program is on nature-based solutions in order to build resilience, particularly the use of mangroves as a natural barrier against tsunami and other coastal hazards amplified by climate change. This is a project headed by Dr. Mary Antoinette Miroya Eitner and our project focal person, Miss Rachel Morala. And let's talk about the overarching goal of the project. So the main goal of this project is to equip local government and community partners with knowledge, skills, and tools for reducing tsunami hazards and climate change-induced disaster risk with a focus on mangroves as a nature-based solution, but also including other non-structural measures. So shown on this slide is the project site, which is the coastal community in Barangay Kilitisan, Calatagan, Batangas in the Philippines. This barangay has last few stand of mangroves, and it has mangroves but under threat due to coastal development and anthropogenic activities. It has also medium to high hazard levels in terms of storm surge, as you can see from the UP Resilience NOAA map, and it's prone to tsunami also. So the project has the following focus areas of work. One, promoting awareness and preparedness. Second is strengthening local capacity. And third, partnership building and networking. In terms of approach, we have the following: community-based, science-based, and at the same time science-informed, participatory, and of course, inclusive. This is in terms of considering gender, age, and socioeconomic status in the project implementation. So in terms of raising awareness and preparedness, we are doing it both informally and formally in terms of workshop to integrate nature-based solutions to tsunami preparedness. Of course, awareness raising programs need to connect and resonate with local people to be successful. And thus, we adopt a participatory process combined with quantitative approaches. And specifically, we also quantified the wave attenuation capacity of the present mangroves in the project area. This is based on mapping and data gathered by the local people. And our experiences show that this greatly helps the community to not only understand their natural assets' protective value, but also feel part of the process. And to equip and capacitate the community with knowledge and skills on tsunami preparedness and nature-based solutions, so we use science-based and participatory methods in our activities. So we conducted biophysical assessment. As I have mentioned, we quantify the protective value of the mangroves for the local community to appreciate more and visualize the importance of mangroves, not only as a provider in terms of ecosystem services, but more importantly as natural barrier and first line of defense. And as far as I know, this is the first initiative in Barangay Kilitisan in the project side. So aside from that, we also assess the factors influencing the growth of mangroves to guide conservation and protection initiatives. Hence, to make our approach and implementation science-based. So in this process, we establish transects or permanent monitoring points that will allow sustained monitoring of the growth and development, as well as the changes and environmental conditions of the mangroves. So participatory is at the core of the project implementation, in which the community people were trained in the assessment and monitoring to ensure the sustainability of the impact. Moving on, we also conducted geophysical assessment of the area. So as shown in the slide, we have the following results. So we have the topographic profile, the type of soil. We also have the dominant longshore current direction, which we know are important parameters in determining which mangroves will grow in specific site or area. And then we have the participatory biophysical assessments. So we assess mangrove forest structure with women, with youth, with students, teachers, and the community. So we identified species of mangroves thriving in different zones. We established quadrats where the community will monitor. So we also assess species diversity, the conservation status, the relationship of this soil or substrate elevation, and the quantification of the wave reduction property of the mangrove, wave energy reduction property of this mangrove. So as you can see in the forest structure index, so this makes the people basically more appreciative and therefore encouraging them to protect their natural capital. That's the mangroves. No? This has also led them to develop mangrove business or livelihood concept. So that's in terms of nature-based ecotourism. So we also conduct assessment of the conditions in the area that would allow for or hinder mangrove growth and development. So through the transect line, the established monitoring points, as well as training of the local people on the conduct of said assessment and systematic monitoring. So the use of these simple tools and methods ensures sustainability of the process, that these local people are able to conduct the assessment, the activities, and monitoring even beyond the life of this project. So what's important is that the result of this assessment and monitoring inform effective ways to conserve and enhance coastal ecosystem. And the program, therefore, addresses some of the common weaknesses of many mangrove conservation efforts. So some of the example, the lack of baseline monitoring, lack of baseline information, weak monitoring, and non-scientific approaches. So example of these non-scientific approaches in mangrove plantation, so we are planting in areas where conditions will not allow mangroves to grow. So not planting by ecology. So planting the wrong species for the existing conditions. Let me just share some nature-based solutions roles of mangroves in coastal hazard resilience. So as we all know, mangroves are well established as an effective and efficient mitigating measure against coastal hazards. So in fact, no less effective than engineering-based solutions. So as what have been mentioned by Dr. Tonet a while ago. So the project area is lucky to have among the last remaining mangrove stands in the Philippines. So but these mangroves are also under serious threats, mainly from many developments, tourism, conversion to aquaculture, agriculture, and even pollution. So the roots of mangroves, which can be prop roots, that's in the case of Rhizophora, and tomatophores for Avicennia and Soneraceae species, help in the stabilization of marine sediments, no, to prevent, of course, coastal erosion. So this contribute to wave energy reducing property on top of other vegetation factors such as age, the size of the trees, the height of the leaves, even spacing and density. And finally, another important element of our program is the network and partnership building. So we partner with Barangay and Municipal Government of Calatagan, and another important partnership is with the Department of Science and Technology's Philippines Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, the DOST, PHIVOLCS. And these are some of the activities we conducted with DOST PHIVOLCS. So we had workshop on tsunami hazard and risk mapping, workshop on tsunami evacuation planning and tsunami warning system, workshop on tsunami evacuation drill mapping. These complementary preparedness activities are in connection with the Tsunami Ready program of the PHIVOLCS, which Ms. Joanne will probably mention later. And this series of activities have resulted to the development of tsunami emergency plan and tsunami evacuation drill. So there you go. As part of this collaboration with PHIVOLCS, we generated this tsunami evacuation plan and evacuation maps together with the community. We also have partnership with youth, teachers, and other volunteers to form the Mangrove Warriors. So this is a voluntary initiative of this group of people during the workshop conducted last April 2024. So I will also take this opportunity to invite everyone to join our youth-led organization as adult mentors or volunteers. Remote or distance participation is welcome to their advocacy on promoting inclusivity and diversity. So we have the FB page of the Mangrove Warriors there on the slide. And this is a photo of a cluster of Mangrove Warriors who are all young earth science and biology teachers. This is our Philippine team for this project. And I'd like to end my presentation with this call from mangrove warriors. Protect and conserve our mangroves. They are gift from Mother Nature that shields us from the pounding of waves today and into the future. Maraming salamat po. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mangrove Mao. So everybody will now know you as Dr. Mangrove Mao, for sharing an approach that integrates participatory scientific methodologies, active partnership with the community and local government units. At this point in our session today, we will now be requesting for some inputs, insights, and additional comments from our equally distinguished panel of reactors. Um, I will introduce them as a group, and you will hear them speak one by one. But before I do, can we please take 1 minute photo opportunity for all our participants? I think we've hit the peak of our webinar at around 222 participants. If is it okay to open everyone's video so that we can do a quick photo? Requesting our tech support team to just announce as you click and tell us if you're done. Mai, Ishi?
Hi,
Yes.
I will be taking a photo. So let's smile in 3, 2, 1, smile. One more in 3, 2, 1, smile. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are we done?
Yes, Miss
Okay,
Rachel.
thank you very much, Mai. So as I mentioned before this, we have three distinguished panel of reactors. Let me quickly introduce them and then let's hear them in succession as they provide reflections and insights. We have for our panel, Ms. Joan Salcedo, who serves as the head of the Geologic Disaster Awareness and Preparedness Division of the Department of Science and Technology of the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology. After her, we will hear from Mr. Roy Ruiz Velez, who is a research associate and tsunami program coordinator at the Puerto Rico Seismic Network, specializing on GIS for emergency and water resource management. He leads a tsunami ready program across 46 municipalities in Puerto Rico. And of course, last but not the least, we have Dr. Hari Kumar, who serves as GHI's regional coordinator for South Asia. He takes the lead in disaster risk management in earthquake risk reduction initiatives across India, Nepal, Bhutan, and Myanmar, focusing on building disaster resilience capacities in communities and health facilities. So, I hope you're still from the Philippines. I hope you're all still wide awake as we hear now from our distinguished panel of reactors. Miss Joanne?
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and good morning to others. Um, Let me start by giving all thanking and of course, given all the great presentations that we have tonight, what we have heard, we can see some commonalities and of course, many lessons to learn and can be adapted in our own countries. Of course, the most obvious commonality among us here is being at risk to the negative effects of tsunami. And we also have the same goal of reducing that negative effect. Here in the Philippines, one of the strategies is the science-based preparedness, matched or complemented with the local knowledge. And of course, partnership with different stakeholders. So we start by studying the science of tsunami, as mentioned by Dr. Aitner earlier, the generation, propagation, inundation, and of course, the most important is the effects and its impacts to us. And we don't forget the history and the review of the past. So as we have seen also from the different presenters, it is very important to make people aware that this already happened in our country or in some of our countries, but most of them are already forgotten. Therefore, the preparedness is also being left behind. So, but given these activities like what we are doing right now, we can see the urge of the people, the call to prepare for tsunami as one of the important hazard to be prepared for by our countries. So given that studying the science, we then develop innovations, technologies, tools. And one of the example here in the Philippines is a tool that has been developed by a Filipino scientist, Dr. Bautista, which is the Rapid Earthquake Damage Assessment System. It is an end-to-end tool for tsunami preparedness, from being studying or simulation, performing risk and impact assessment, and then plotting tsunami evacuation map together with the community and putting where the signages should be. So that tools, we don't stop there. The most important, of course, is the science and the risk communication. That what we are doing right now. This we partner with the locals and of course the organization, like what had mentioned again by Dr. Mao, with the Geo Hazard International. We did that in Batangas, one of the vulnerable, prone, tsunami prone community in the Philippines. But we don't stop there. There are also other communities. So given that, we conduct community-based early warning system through the program Tsunami Ready Philippines, and we named it as Tsunami Ready Community if we do it specific in those areas. Wherein these activities are complemented with the IOC UNESCO, as also mentioned by one of our speakers, the 12 indicators of the Tsunami Ready Recognition Program. And I congratulate, I think that's Haiti, being one of the awardee of Tsunami Ready Community. I envy you because in the Philippines, we do many activities for tsunami preparedness, but we yet to receive the Tsunami Ready recognition because we still yet to establish the board. But of course, we are there. We are going there. So policy making is very important for tsunami prone localities in the Philippines, as one of the challenges also to us is the language barrier, but then that had been addressed already by community-based activities. So for today, I just would like to share as we commemorate the World Tsunami Awareness Day today, we're in the team. I think that also had been discussed by one of our presenters. Empowering the next generation is very much on the presentation of one of our colleagues. So for this year, we partnered with the city and with the Mati City. It's a city at the southern part of the Philippines in Mindanao area, and the Philippine Red Cross, an organization, as we all know, for Tsunami Run for Safety. This activity is aimed to increase people's awareness and, of course, eventually encourage them to prepare. We use the hashtag Handa ang may alam. So it's a local or a Filipino word, handa meaning prepare, and um, alam, which is knowledgeable. Then if you're knowledgeable, you are prepared. So given that, we also, as I have heard, there are different strategies that we are applying in different countries. And then we can see also that choice of mitigation to use depends on the community and its capability to adapt. So now I would like later, maybe during the discussion, to ask our LGUs together, the local governments that are participating in this webinar, that do you have mangroves in your area? And are these nature-based solutions are being used by your community? So we want to maximize its use. We know that this is common to many coastal areas here in our country, but I just would like to know its use. Do we know the extent of its use, not just for climate change, but we also use that for other uh, mitigation measures in our areas? So maybe that's my point of discussion later. So thank you. Ms. Raish,
Yes,
your
thank you,
mic.
Miss Joanne. Can we hear now for Mr. Roy Velez, who is thankfully still here to give us his reaction. Sir,
Yes, thank you
there
very
you
much.
are. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I want to thanks for this opportunity. I would like to congratulate all three countries for their magnificent presentation, for all the efforts they make to raise tsunami awareness in their country. Puerto Rico is near the Dominican Republic. We are part of the Caribbean area, and in Puerto Rico, we have 46 tsunami-ready communities already recognized by the U.S. Tsunami Program guideline. I work for the Puerto Rico Seismic Network. I am the Tsunami Program Coordinator there at the Puerto Rico Seismic Network. I want to highlight three important aspects of tsunami preparedness. The first one is the maps, the second one is tsunami signs, and the third one is the education. For the maps, I want to emphasize that if you want to recognize a community as a tsunami-ready community, you will need an easy to understand map. A map can help you to increase risk perception, and this is very important. Maybe in the Dominican Republic, you can use maps to increase risk perception of the communities, and also a map will help you to organize and planning with the community. The second one is the tsunami signs. Here in Puerto Rico, we are using the art. We are using art murals related to tsunamis to to increase the awareness of tsunami. We also are using unconventional signage, which is a tsunami sign painted in the road. That could be a good initiative for maybe Haiti or maybe in the Philippines too. And the third one is the education. I heard that Haiti is doing a good job educating children's schools. In Puerto Rico, we do that every month. We go out to the communities and we encourage them to educate concerning tsunamis because education is the key to save life. I suggest a multi-hazard approach that include all the population. By population, I not only refers to communities, I refers by different communities, including first responders. You will need to include emergency managers. You will need to include children's and the tourist community. In Puerto Rico, we have the Tsunami Ready Supporter Program, which is a program focused on the tourist community, including hotels. Finally, you need to identify champions. We call in Puerto Rico Tsunami Ready Champions. And you need to identify those champions, maybe a community leader, maybe a part of your team, and train them, and then they can go to the community and help you to continue the tsunami awareness in the community. And finally, I want to encourage to continue the good work you are doing in all of your country. Here in Puerto Rico, we are more glad to help you in anything you need. Maybe we can share with you some of our initiatives in a future presentation. So this is, thank you very much.
Rach muted. You are muted,
Rachel.
Rach.
There you go. Sorry, I couldn't find the icon. So, thank you for that, Mr. Velez. And now we'd like to hear from our panel reactor, member of our panel, Dr. Hari Kumar. Sir, from GHI
Can
South
you
Asia.
hear me? Can you hear me,
Yes,
right?
sir. There you go. You are coming in very
Wonderful,
clear.
wonderful, wonderful. Sorry, I had some internet issues, so joined from my phone. So wonderful presentations from everyone, right from the start on nature-based solutions and the country presentations, and it was really great to hear. I mean, right up to the example from Puerto Rico, it's great to hear how there are unique challenges in each country. Geographical differences, socioeconomic constraints are there, conflict is there in some countries, and some have experience with past tsunamis, some don't have. But it is so interesting to hear how every country is taking steps forward, and there are some commonalities which I have seen in all the discussions, and I think one of that is to get everyone together. You bringing the scientists together, bringing the municipalities together, and the community along with. This is really great to see from Dominican Republic, from Haiti, and from Philippines. And from Philippines, I think what stands out was the community-based evacuation plans which you are developing. I think this will be great in enhancing preparedness in the high-risk zones. I was in the Philippines a few weeks back, and one thing I heard about disaster preparedness and hazards is that, oh, we have everything. We have every hazard you want to know about, and tsunami is one more. And I'm glad to hear that Philippines is on its way in preparing. And I love the catchy words you're using: mangrove warriors and tsunami ready. And I mean, this is so interesting because it'll catch the attention of the people, which is what you want. Finally, to encourage them to get on the path of preparedness. And of course, working with nature-based solutions. How communities can get involved in these nature-based solutions is really great to learn about your work in the Philippines. From the Dominican Republic, I was so happy to see the records of past tsunamis because normally, human beings tend to forget events which happened in the past, and at least in the region, we are very good at forgetting. And the big tsunami happened in 2004. We were quite surprised by this event. We heard the word for the first time. But actually, India had suffered from tsunamis on both the coasts in the 1940s. And very similar areas were affected in the 2004 tsunami. So we have had forgotten about the tsunami which hurt us a few decades back. So it's very important that these records are there in the Dominican Republic. The old tsunamis are being remembered. Use these anniversaries as focusing events to bring everyone's attention to tsunami preparedness, because tsunamis don't happen often. So it's very difficult to keep the attention, and we have to use every opportunity there is to keep the attention of the decision makers on tsunami preparedness. And I love that you're getting even the tourism sector to be involved. And the coastal areas are attractive to tourism, to the tourism sector, and they really have to be prepared. So I was glad to hear about the preparedness involving the tourism sector. And in Haiti, the Haiti presentation, the talk about discussion on the gaps, not only the gaps and the solutions, but also the good practices were really, really heartening to hear. And the fact that they have done full-scale tsunami evacuation drills. I mean, that is also cutting across, silos, bringing everyone together. And a few things which I really liked about the work in Haiti was the co-development of the solutions. You cannot go to communities and give them solutions. You have to develop the solutions tailor-made for that community and work along with them. And that was so great to hear. I know the ongoing conflict is a restriction for a lot of activities, and I liked how you're trying to get around it with social media outreach, even though there is power issues, but still I think you're doing a great service by reaching out to the community and involving them. And there are a lot of examples of how tsunami ready the countries in the South Asia region have been. As Veronica mentioned, that was a real focusing event. 2004 Indonesian tsunami and the 2011 Japan tsunami were really focusing events. And I think India's experience, I must say, before 2004, we had not heard the word before, and but within 35 months of the tsunami, we had developed the Indian National Center for Oceanic Information Services, which is providing tsunami warning to the entire coastal communities in all along the coast of India, on both the eastern coast and also the western coast. And many states had already been working on hurricane preparedness. And that is one thing I liked about our presenters mentioning about hurricane preparedness. And there are a lot of similarities with, how you need communities to be prepared for hurricanes and also for tsunamis. So there's a lot of learning happening across countries. But I think there should also be, this kind of an event where you have 3 countries, 4 countries actually. I would talk about Puerto Rico also and India. Many countries sharing their experiences. I think it is time we have these collaborative frameworks for sharing data as well as best practices between countries, because we are all starting from scratch there in many of our countries. And I think there should be more platforms like this where we can share best practices, and it will be very, very good when countries, there are joint simulation exercises between countries, because tsunami is not going to affect one country, it is going to affect multiple countries. So thank you so much. It was wonderful listening to all of you, and would be glad to take part in more discussion. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you very much, sir. Maybe there's lots of questions that were raised in the Q&A portion, and our panelists and our resource persons have so generously responded to the questions. I'm afraid that some of the questions cannot be seen on the chat. So for those that might be interested to do a quick read of the questions in the Q&A, you just click on the icon and you will see the questions that have been raised and answered there. But maybe as a way to sum up this is our session for today, I just like a quick answer from all our resource persons. And the question really has something to do with everything that was presented. Based on each one's expertise, if you were going to be asked, what do you think is the important critical first step in tsunami preparedness. So maybe we can give each other a quick response, because then we want to pick up on what we think is very critical in all our initiatives. It's a good way to sum up also what have been shared today. Can we start first with our keynote speaker, Dr. Tonette?
Yeah. Can you please repeat the question, Rach?
The question really is, what do you think is the important critical first step when it comes to tsunami preparedness? If we are going to initiate a campaign on tsunami preparedness, what do you think is the important starting point?
Yeah. Okay, that's a very good question. So for me, I think the most important most important first step towards addressing this issue is really to understand the hazard, and to understand I mean, particularly, for instance, a particular community, understand the hazard and understand their exposure to the hazard. So that proper mitigating measures could be designed or implemented.
Thank you. May we hear from the point of view of Miss Delca Espinal?
Okay, something critical, as Tonet mentioned, is empower the community also. Because sometimes, for example, in this, I will be talking particularly about the Family Preparedness Project in Dominican Republic, now in Montecristi. When you have involved people, more people come. For example, I start a project, maybe 20 workshops in Montecristi province, but due the interest of the people in the communities and the simple and easy way that they learn about seismic risk, they were really interested. And now we have more than 30, and we continue more with funds and trying to get funds from partnerships. And the people is really involved. For example, I made a presentation in the International Disaster Day in the park, and thousands of people come, and the students from the school make a presentation about the tsunami and also seismic risk. And I was really glad to see the people integrate, empowered, because they believe that they were part of the project. Empowered the communities, understood the hazards in this community, and tried to work always with them.
Thank you for that, ma'am. May we hear from Miss Garmaliel William Mentor? Oh, sorry, Mentor
Yeah,
William.
yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah, since Janet already mentioned, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank, thank you. Since Janet already mentioned understanding the risk and Delca, the community involvement, I will talk about inclusion of different groups of the
Yeah.
community, and also capacity building of the first responders. Because us as organization, we can train, we can build capacity, but we are not the one intervening during disaster. So we need to make sure that all the first
No.
responders are prepared, and their efforts are coordinating, because they will be all together, and each of them air their own modus operandi. So they need to coordinate their efforts to lessen casualties during disaster. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Mao Kodyamat, can we hear from you?
Okay, thank you, Miss Rach. No, so for me, understanding the live experiences or the conditions of the local people, the on-the-ground experiences of the people, would be a very critical factor in building knowledge or program for capacity building on tsunami preparedness, and also a geophysical assessment of the area.
Thank you. How about Miss Joanne Salcedo?
Hi, good evening once
Yes, ma'am.
again. For my opinion, it's no single solution. So as we have heard from our speakers and our panelists for tonight, that would include awareness, understanding, inclusivity, partnerships, collaborations, community-based ownership, and its capability to adapt.
Thank you. You kind of summarize everything for us, but of course, we'd like to hear more from Dr. Harry. What do you think would be a very critical starting point?
Yeah, actually, a very good and effective early warning system is very, very important for tsunami preparedness. But a good early warning system, which is not understood by the community, is useless. So we need to get these two things in parallel. Very important to get the community to understand the hazard, look out for early warning signs as well, and also have a plan to get themselves to safety. So we need. I mean, it's not one step, but I think it's a mix of the two, where you have the early warning systems as well as a community which is prepared.
Thank you for that, sir. I think we're very disciplined about our time, and there's room for one more, even after that question for everybody. And I think this next question is directed towards our keynote address speaker, Dr. Beroya Eitner. I read in the chat somewhere, there's a question. What really is a good balance between green and gray solutions? You mentioned it much earlier on in your presentation. How does one find the right balance?
Well, actually, there is no tailored answer to that, because it really also depends on the specifics of the locality. So
Oh,
some
yeah.
areas, for instance, would not be able to grow mangroves, right, because of the conditions. So then your only option would be gray solutions, right? But I think, and this is an active area of research. That's the, because at the moment there is really no like kind of a formula on how do you combine. So you want to optimize them as much as possible. But for me, if I would be asked what would be my approach would be to maximize all possible natural solutions, nature-based solutions in a place, and then check if this is already enough, if this is already enough to mitigate existing hazards, which could be quantified anyway, and then see how this could be supplemented by engineering solutions. And so in that way, they would really work hand in hand. So a good example, for instance, is I have seen articles showing how sand dunes really help in protecting not only the communities, but also the seawalls that protect this community by building the seawall at the back of sand dunes, such that it would be the sand dune first to absorb the impact, and then so that when the impact of tsunami hits the seawall, then it is much reduced already. So these kind of combinations are something that could be really explored in many areas.
Thank you for that. We have, I'd like to acknowledge very our a participant we invited from Haiti, Sir Bertonos Pierre. Sir, are you there? Can we turn on the mic if we can hear from Sir Bertonos Pierre from Haiti? There you are, sir. We can see
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
There you go. Hi, sir.
Thank
Good
you.
evening. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much. It was a real good, a really important webinar, and we have been exposed to different works that has been done all over the world by geohazard, and I thank geohazard for this recognition. It is. It is. I'd like especially to thank Joe Hazard for his work in Haiti, and 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 and
Yes, sir.
hello,
Yes, sir.
hello. Okay. Yeah, I said that I think Visual has that for this distinction, and I'd mention his work in Haiti, where the vulnerability is very high, and I really appreciate the focusing on youth for preparedness of the population for tsunami. Thanks again, and I hope we will continue to work together for better understanding of tsunami issues, and get people prepared for the next tsunami that will come. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, sir. I just like to remind our resource persons, if there's still a chance to answer some of the questions in the Q&A icon, please do so as we come to a close for our webinar for today. But before anything, the perfunctory thank you to everybody for making this event very meaningful, for making our celebration of Tsunami Awareness Day quite memorable for this year. We've had, like I mentioned a while ago, we had the peak of our participants reached 222, and we didn't just receive participants from 3 countries, but we had participants from Haiti, Peru, the Philippines, Portugal, and Puerto Rico. The many experiences and lessons and insights shared were indeed very important, sharing that we can utilize as we head back to our own countries and find ways to move forward and claim safer communities. We are actually in all the presentations, I like what I heard when everyone said we are actually more common than we think. And I believe it's Dr. Hari who said that we have much to learn from each other. And I was kind of afraid that people will not stay for the 2 hour webinar, but it seems we want more of this. And we're calling on our GH partners in GHI to continue these dialogues and knowledge sharing and how best we can really pick up. Because as again, I'd like to quote Dr. Harry when he said, we do not have to start from scratch. We can actually begin uh, our experiences picking up from each other. Many actionable steps also were shared, or on tsunami preparedness were shared, especially in terms of how to really engage the community. And we look forward, we from the Philippine team look forward to our coming together, to our working together as a global community to further tsunami preparedness. Thank you, everyone, and we really appreciate your presence. Even if we have different time zones, we're all here. Thank you very much for your very active participation, and we look forward to actually seeing each other more. Dr. Tunette, yes?
Yeah. Just two things, just two quick things. Just I want to recognize those who registered actually. So we have in actuality we have 420 registrants, but many were sending were sending messages that they were not able to connect because of power breakdown. There
All right.
so wind and rain are strong in many parts of the Philippines at the moment. So that's one thing. And another thing, we are so sorry that we are not able to answer all the questions, but we invite you to please. Mango Warriors is in Facebook, so if you are in Facebook, you can please send your questions that we are not able to answer in the messenger chat of Facebook. And yeah, again, thank you very much for attending this webinar and sharing your thoughts. And this was really a very active conversation. And yeah, thank you very much for that.
Thank you, everybody. Good day, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Bye.
Thank you.
Rachel.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye bye.
you.
Au revoir.
Bye.
Bye.